Yep, you saw it right. A single bullet killed all of those enemies. But hey, what's going on, guys? Joltz here, back with another video, and today we're going over the Sheriff Amara build. Now, I got this build idea from a guy named Derch, and I will link his channel down in the description for you guys. I'd recommend you guys go check him out. He is very knowledgeable about Borderlands and knows exactly what is going on. If you're looking for mechanics or numbers or anything like that, he is the guy to go to. Anyways, Sheriff Amara is going to be a build in which you're going to be using a bunch of Jacob's weapons to utilize the high base damage and get those beautiful 1 to 2 shot kills. Now, this is a build not for bossing, but for mobbing. You can use the build for bossing, but it's a little more tricky because you got to chain enemies and it's more of a complicated setup. However, I will be covering a bossing build in the future for Amara. Alright, let's go ahead and show off the gear. First off, we have the Unforgiven. Now, I know a lot of people talk crap about this gun, and heck, even I've done the same. It doesn't look appealing with its very slow fire rate, but it hits extremely hard if you hit a critical hit. You might also notice it doesn't have a sight. For whatever reason in this game, having a sight on the Unforgiven lowers the damage. Either way, it's not a huge deal because you're going to be close range anyways for easy headshots, and if you hit fire at Jacobs, it's pinpoint accurate, so it doesn't really matter. Next up, the One Pump Chump. This thing combined with the personal space skill, like close range, does ridiculous damage. This is going to be more of your backup gun in case your action skill's on cooldown, or if you want to rush in and just try to get a bunch of kills. Either way, you do want that. The Monocle. This thing is ridiculous too. So, you can see on the card it says 1400 damage, and that doesn't sound like a whole lot, right? Well, it's called the Monocle for a reason, because you're going to want to aim down sight with this gun. Aiming down sight and hitting a critical hit hits for 10 times that damage. So, instead of 1400 on a body shot, you're hitting 14,000 on a critical hit. For my second wind weapon, I went with the Freeman. You can use whatever you want, but if I have like an enemy go around a corner, I want to make sure I can get a second win. For the shield, I went with the backhand because it's really good for survivability. Damage from behind reduced by 56%, 40% chance to reflect projectiles while shielded, and lucky for me, I got the anointed one for 30% damage reflected back at the enemy. Now, if you don't have the shield, another good choice is the front loader or the transformer. You just want something tanky. For the class mod, Phase Circer. Always Phase Circer. As for the skills that it does boost, it really doesn't affect the build too much. You're really only needing it for the special effects of it. Basically, you use your action skill and you get a bunch of extra damage and cooldown. For the grenade, use whatever. I just chose this to get like stronger chains and like if I'm on fire or whatever, I can put myself out. And for the artifact, use whatever you want. For me, I want to rush in, get a bunch of kills, and then when I'm weak, I'll back up and like start sniping. Let's go over the skill tree. Alright, let's start off with the most important one first, and that is the Fist of Elements skill tree. So first off, 1 point anima and the other 5 are from my class mod. This is only so we can move down the skill tree because we don't want to be killing enemies with damage over time. We want to make sure they're dying from our shots so that we get really good chain kills. If they're dying from damage over time, then it kind of ruins the chains. Steady hands for accuracy and handling. You want this on a Jacobs because you want to make sure you're pinpoint accurate. And you might argue that, oh, I'm already accurate, so I don't need this. Well, either way, you still want to take it because the other skills aren't going to matter, so you want to move down the skill tree with this. In Fusion, you can convert a portion of damage dealt by Amara's weapons to her action skill element. Even though we're using Jacob's weapons that have no element, our setup's going to convert them into elemental damage. Tempest, this is going to give you even more elemental damage, and you want this because you want to have really strong chains. Illuminated Fist, now this skill does not matter for the build, but we have to put something somewhere to move down the skill tree. And we definitely don't want Wildfire because if we spread a damage over time, then the enemies might die from a damage over time and ruin our chain. We don't want that. Dread, so when we lock an enemy in place and kill them, our weapon's going to be reloaded, and also you're getting more gun damage out of it. Indiscriminate, so bullets are going to be bouncing all over the place, and if we're using Phase Lock or Stillness of Mind, which we are, then our ricochet chance and damage are increased. Deep Well, so if we're using elemental guns, we get a mag size increase, and for our Jacobs, that really doesn't matter, but the other skills are kind of pointless for the build, and we have to put it somewhere to move down the skill tree. 1 point in sustainment. Now, the reason why we move down the skill tree is because we need some healing. So, since our Jacobs are going to be doing elemental damage, we can get healing off of this. 4% healing doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you're hitting with your Jacobs for, 100,000, then you're going to be jumping back up to full health in a single shot. Here is the key ingredient to this build. Ties that bind. When you grab an enemy with Phase Lock, I've been saying Phase Lock, haven't I? I'm sorry. Phase Grasp, then it's going to link to a bunch of nearby enemies, and when you kill that enemy off, that damage is going to chain to all of them and pretty much insta-kill them. I didn't really cover it, but we did unlock all the elemental augments, so we can do fire on our shots, corrosive on our shots, and if we take it off, we can do shock. So we can choose what element we want our chains and, Jacob's shots to do. For the blue tree, we have 3 in fast hands for the reload speed and swap speed. We don't want points over here because damage over time, it'll ruin our chains. So the other 2 points have to go over here to move down the skill tree. alacrity for a little more reload, and only 1 point there to move down the skill tree for later on. And since we have the phase soaker on, when we use our action skill, we get full stacks of rush. So you're getting a decent bonus out of this. Transcend, more accuracy and critical hit, you do want that. Restless for all the cooldown. You want to make sure you have Phase Grasp out a lot for a tie set bind, and be controlling the battlefield. I'll send in 1 point here to increase your augment's usefulness. The only one that matters here is Stillness of Mind, which breaks 0.75 seconds after being damaged. For only 1 point, this is definitely worth it. From Rest, so this would be nice for the fire rate, but we're using Jacobs and we're kind of timing our shots, so we're not really spamming as much. And all the other skills in the skill tree are a lot more beneficial for the build. Laid Bare, so when you use your action skill on the enemy, they're going to take increased damage from everything. More damage means better chains. Wrath, this is going to give you a bunch of extra gun damage, and don't pass it up. Remnant, this skill is just dumb. I mean that in a good way. So basically, when I kill the enemy off, my overkill damage will form into an elemental ball and seek out another enemy. I don't think there's a cap for the overkill damage on the skill, so sometimes the ball will hit for, 50k, and sometimes it hits for millions of damage. No joke, I've seen the ball actually hit for 14 million damage. That will one-hit kill any mob on Mayhem 3. The cool thing too is you can change the element the ball's gonna do. If you want to change it to like fire damage, put on your fire augment. If you want it to be corrosive, make it corrosive. Or you can make it shock. Whatever you want. Finally, for the green tree, we have personal space. So the closer you are to the enemy, the more damage you're gonna do. And this skill makes the one pump chump very deadly. 2 points in clarity for a little passive health regen. Not really needed for the build, but we have to move down the skill tree to grab our corrosive augment. And yeah, that is the build, so let's go ahead and go show it off. Alright, Mayhem 3 modifiers are pretty much neutral. These cancel out, and the enemies have a little more health and shield and stuff. Not a big deal. So before you push on and take on the enemies, make sure you match the elemental weakness. These enemies are flesh, so we have fire on. We could also do shock to break their shields, but it doesn't really matter. Or if you're fighting robots, put on corrosive. But since we're fighting flesh, we're doing fire. And also make sure you have on ties that bind, and Stillness of Mind. You want those on too. These enemies all over here, let's pick this guy up. And you can see they all got bound together. So we go for this guy, the damage chains, and yeah, he died. Pick you up. Let's do some Unforgiven. Go for the crit. He dies, the ball goes off and hits that guy, he's dead too. Action skills on cooldown, let's go for the one pump chump. Get nice and close, get those one-shot kills. So you're basically just controlling the battlefield, enemies can't move, and you just take them out. So this guy, let's go for the crit. And all those enemies just chained and died. Yeah. So now we need some healing. So what we're going to do is go ahead and back up a little bit. Pick up a guy, it doesn't really matter who. Alright, go for the crit. And we're full HP, look at that. 71,000 chain? Yeah, pretty awesome. And like I mentioned before, if you're trying to boss with this build, it's a little more tricky because if there's no enemies in the arena, you can't really chain your good overkill. That was 500,000. I think that's going to be it for the video, so go ahead and try out the build for yourself. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely one of my favorite ways to play Amara now. And yeah, let me know how it works for you guys. So if you guys did enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like because that'd be awesome. And if you really enjoyed it, be sure to sub. You guys have a great day, and I will see you all later. Peace out. 1 million. There it is.